Deep in the jungle, you discover it, the Cobra Terror Drome with gun emplacements almost everywhere.
Well, this has been a long time in coming. I'm going to admit it was over a half decade ago now, because time flies when you have a 2.5-year pandemic. So I received the Terror Drome. I'll never forget getting it that night. I was sitting up in the living room. I unboxed the package in the living room. You know, upon looking at it in the condition that it was in, he did not send a reject. He did not send a donor, parts queen or anything like that. What he had sent was a used but not abused Terror Drome that was 35 years old. Like it had discolored pieces and all that kind of stuff, but there was nothing, and there were pieces that were missing even, but the pieces that were there, nothing was broken. There wasn't one broken dome door hinge. There wasn't one broken base clip. It was very impressive. This whole piece right here, as well as all the panels and all the consoles and everything, were all discolored. This one particularly. And they had those G.I. Joe stickers on them that are those clear decals that just melt. The adhesive just melts around it over time, especially if they're stored in an attic or something, and it just blech. It's impossible to work with and get off. I started buying parts right away. This was probably like 2017, admittedly. So that's how long this has been. But I started buying parts, and I collected up all the parts, even got the stickers from Toy Hacks right away, because I knew these stickers were toast. Even reached out to Adam at Yojo Outlet, and he was able to recommend to me this Salon 40 cream that works to de-yellow and reverse discoloration of plastic. So I was working the problem. The size of it and just the daunting prospect of, okay, well, how do I get these panels off? Because I'm going to have to slather this whole thing in peroxide, and I don't want to have to mask these because the Salon 40 gets on those. Because what they don't tell you is that Salon 40 and or Retro Bright, or whatever you want to call it, is not always a perfect process. And it gets dicier when it comes to how many parts you have to do, the surface area of the parts, concentrations of this and that on the part. It is not an exact science. And I'm not one that really enjoys breaking out rubber gloves and solvents and, trying to get things, cling filmed and saran wrapped and then put outside and hope that I don't peroxide my clothes in the process. And admittedly, it's not my favorite thing. So I started by washing this piece. I rolled up my sleeves not long after. It was probably the better part of a year. It was probably about 10 or 11 months. And I got in there and I washed this piece and got all of, because this is where you start. You disassemble the Terror Drome and you start tackling that ring first. The ring. This is the ring right here. And I said, all right, I'm going to wash this piece and see where I am. Because it had some serious discoloration. Like, it was yellowed. It wasn't the worst I've ever seen. It didn't have like burn areas on it that were like up next to a window for 30 years or anything. But it was rough. It wasn't going to be presentable. And that's the real challenge. Before I even go further into this, and why am I doing this big preamble on this particular restoration? Well, it's because this restoration has taken this long to get to, okay? In the process, I'm sure that Steven, who I haven't spoken to in several years now because we both just dropped off the map, I'm sure he thought I forgot about it or I was never going to do it. He probably felt betrayed on some level. I was always working this problem, all right? I might be late, not that we ever set a date, but, it might take me longer than expected, but I keep my promises, okay? This is one of those where the culture of YouTube and the culture of social media becomes a hindrance to how you would really tackle a problem. Restoration videos now of anything have become in vogue on YouTube. And what they really are at this stage is they are the visual version of an ASMR video. They appeal to and cater to OCD types who are more about seeing fresh cleanliness from dirt and filth than they are about preservation of an item. A lot of the most successful channels that do this now are ones that don't even have words. They don't even have a host. They just have rubber gloves on a white background and a lot of noises like gurgling, electroplating and drill sounds and sandblaster sounds and all that stuff. And you watch this item go from a rusted out piece of junk to this, very displayable thing again. Unfortunately, those videos also don't tell you, if you're not educated on them, that they're not about preserving the item. They're about giving you a result. They're presentation, not preservation. So, as an example, anytime you see those channels restore firearms, they're not. They're sandblasting the crap out of these things. They are just trying to get an aesthetic result. They're trying to take their viewer on a journey from, oh, look how dirty it is, to, oh, look how fresh and clean it looks. It looks brand new. Looks brand new, wasn't preserved at all in the process, can no longer be considered a preserved piece in any way. But for the YouTube process, for the casual viewer, if you did not go to that length with that object, the YouTube comments will blow you up and say that you didn't get a good result, you didn't put your effort in, you didn't try. Unfortunately, with something like the Terror Drome, you can't get away from the yellowing of this ring and all the panels around the bottom and all of the interior panels, and all these computer consoles, which are dominant to this toy's look and structure. So even though G.I. Joe plastic is already notoriously brittle and notoriously different from the plastic of, say, Star Wars vintage toys or anything like that, you now walk this balance beam of, well, if I'm embarking on this multi-part restoration journey, how much of this is me catering to the audience to get the presentation, the jazz hands result, and how much of this is going to be me leaning into my preservation experience with what I feel is best for the longevity of the part, the playset and the parts. I knew I wasn't going to be able to get away with not retrobrighting anything, not de-yellowing anything. It almost would have been my preference given the scale of this thing, the size. So anyway, there I am washing it for the first time, hoping that a lot of this is just dirt, as I found with other toys in the past, where I thought I was going to have to peroxide something, and lo and behold, it was just a lot of dirt and dust, and it all came off, and the thing looked great. Not here. Unfortunately, it was discolored, and it needed some help. So I washed it twice the first time. Lighter fluid, trying to get the decal residue off, and then washing it again, and toothbrushes and Dawn soap, and I was in a bathtub, like not me personally in a bathtub, but it was in a bathtub, and I was sitting on the side trying to get it, all clean and everything. And then I was so irritated by the lack of a result from that I said, wow, that didn't do jack. All right, well, I'm going to have to rethink this and come back. Well, like I said, pandemic hits, lockdown, people get distracted by real life concerns, all that kind of stuff, and I sat on it for a little while. Then I realized I'd sat on it too long because I did the Defiant on top, around it. I did the Defiant before it. And then it was finally time to come back. So I started washing it again a few days ago and, sat in a room with rubber gloves and a rag and a bottle of lighter fluid, and I was going over it again, trying to get it off. And then after that, it was time for the unavoidable, inevitable encounter with Salon 40 peroxide cream. Go down into the kitchen, get all the cling film out, lay it down, put on the nitrile gloves, slather it up, get it all ready, wrap it up in the saran wrap, take it back outside to the deck at the right time, hoping that there's enough sunlight that day because we are in the autumn. Get it on the deck, comes out of it, much whiter than it had been. It did do a reversal on it, but there were still areas where I was like, it is an inconsistent process. No matter what you attempt to do, because saran wrap or cling film being layered in certain places more than others, the wrinkles in the cling film, gravity pulling down on the peroxide cream. Even if you turn it into a paste, there's still gravity that kind of hangs on. The coverage isn't perfect. There are all these factors that go into it. But then when you go online and you read what people say about this de-yellowing process, whether you're talking about de-yellowing a Super Nintendo case, or you're talking about de-yellowing a vintage computer case or a toy, they always are arguing, don't do it more than once. It's dangerous. And then other people are like, nah, do it as many times as you want. The overriding wisdom was, some people were adamant you don't do it at all, which I was like, yeah, I kind of relate to that. But again, restoration video, you guys want to see a result, so there's a difference between preservation and presentation. Okay? This is all about showmanship. These social media videos about restoration are about theatricality. They're about, look at what I did, Oh my gosh, look how amazing it looks now. So I looked at it, I sat on it for another day. I said, well, do I leave it as it is and take criticism from you guys about, I can still see yellowing on it? I read the comments from people, and the overriding loudest voices were, don't do it again. If you're going to do it once, but don't do it again. You made your point, let him pull back! And I looked at the result versus the video I have to do, and essentially I was like,
thank you, Mr. Cowboy. I'll take it under advisement. Hit it again.
That's what I did. I hit it again while I was doing these consoles as well. It took me all day yesterday just to get the decals, the nuked faded decals off these, and then get as much of the adhesive off as I could. And then I had to put these into a peroxide bath as well. It definitely, brought them back to a gray color, but it's a very inconsistent result as far as the way the parts look now. It has changed the physical appearance of the parts, and I knew that it would. I don't mean just in the color. I mean the texturing and everything else. This peroxide stuff is no joke. But that's what you deal with when you deal with a Terror Drome. Every single part can discolor. Every single part has decals on it. Every single part on this thing has to be peroxided, except for the blue pieces. Other than the blue pieces, which you can usually get away with not having to do that, every single thing has to be taken into account. I'm bored of the ring. All right, let's get to rebuilding this ring. Well, the first hurdle is down. The Terror Drome restoration is underway. And as you can see, I have test fit these authentic original turret pieces that are unbroken. These are the turret mounts. And I got these, like I said, years ago. But they are completely unbroken. I am debating whether or not I even permanently attach them to the ring, because one of the hardest things about the Terror Drome when trying to move with it or pack it up for relocation is getting those turrets off without breaking them. I feel like I'm in a good place to just kind of mount them as they are and then leave them like that for display purposes and preserve those parts. Kind of like I did with the flag, where I kept my best set of trusses off the display model and just repaired the display trusses, the sort of busted up ones that I made some fixes to. In this case, these didn't need any fixes, and I don't have any that are like broken. These were two of the parts that were completely missing from Steven's Terror Drome when he sent it. So what that means is I'm probably not going to permanently clip these in. I'm going to leave them like that. We'll just have to see what the weight of the actual turrets does as far as bowing them down. I might have to come up with a solution for that. But I don't want to clip them in. Overall, I feel like, this is a great first step. I think it looks really good. Again, I'm not 100% happy with the way the peroxide treatment handled the computer consoles. If I had to do it over again, I mean, they were discolored. They were turning that sort of like yellow brown under the gray, which you can see in the photos. But there's probably no way around it. But like I said, this Terror Drome's original condition on this area was used but not abused, but the nature of the parts that Hasbro chose and the colors made it just a disaster area. Yeah, it probably wouldn't have looked good to have the consoles as they were, but everything is a compromise, So I think it's a really great result compared to where we've come from, but I'm really glad to be done with this ring. This was an absolute nightmare. I've still got panels upon panels upon panels that I have to deal with that are both the interior walls and the exterior doors. Those are all going to have to be peroxided as well. I'm crossing my fingers that I get some better results. But we have a long way to go, and then we have to deal with the central dome that the fire bat comes out of with the splitting doors. Normally, thankfully with this example, normally those segmented doors would have broken hinges, but this one doesn't. The challenge, of course, is that the decal, the multi-part Cobra logo decal, is totally baked. So I'm going to have to find a way to carefully take those logo stickers off without attempting to remove the doors themselves, because those little molded on pegs for the hinges love to snap off when you try and pull them off after all this time. Best to leave that well enough alone. So I'm going to have to devise a way to get the stickers off without putting too much inward pressure on those doors, and then lighter fluid the adhesive off, get them cleaned up, get the new stickers put on, and get this thing reassembled. So there's a lot of work left to do. And then, of course, there's the fire bat itself, which is going to require some TLC. The fire bat that came with this was in decent shape, but it has some parts missing, and it has some areas where it's like, ooh, these kind of parts got to be swapped out, and they're going to require some serious surgery. So there's a long road to go, but it will not be years before the next part. I'm going to keep pushing ahead on this through the end of October. So I'm hoping I can get all this done by then, but we'll just have to see as other challenges arise in the channel, life, everything else. But I hope you guys are happy seeing this restoration get started. Thank you again, Steven, for being so patient. I hope you're still out there. I hope you see this video. Thank you to Adam Mann for the peroxide. Thank you to Sal at 2 Cents Toys. His contributions to this project are going to be showing up in part 2. So in the meantime, thanks everybody for watching this, and I'll see you on the next video.